Okay, so this is a little different setup for me. I'm now using an interactive whiteboard, sharing it with you here. And so as I work this next bank reconciliation problem, I'm going to drop off the screen and then maybe come back and close out the session. Okay, so let's do a bank reconciliation. We got our data off here to the left-hand side, or right-hand side, and that's pretty typical of a bank reconciliation problem. So let's start by doing the bank side. And we'll go ahead and add the book here. And the first thing you want to do is do the balances. Now, if the problem asks you for just the bank side, let's go ahead and just do that. Let's just say they give you all this data here. And they say, what is the adjusted balance for the bank side? Well, we know that the beginning balance is 27,620. And we'll just work from there. So we know that we add in the deposits in transit. And what are the deposits in transit? So somewhere up here, so there it is. So right here on July 31st, it says night deposit of that day's cash receipts is not on the bank statement. So it's in transit. It just hasn't arrived at the bank yet. So we're going to add 3940. Now I'm going to give a little bit of space here, and I'm going to take out outstanding checks. Sometimes I'll give you a listing of checks, or you just got to find where the listings of checks are. So scanning this here real quick. Outstanding checks right here. Checks outstanding. They're right up front with you. Now, normally you'd have to look at what the bank statement says and look at the checks in the check register and see which ones are actually outstanding still. So we've got a total of $6,300. So we're going to subtract out $6,300 from the bank side. And we're going to get to an adjusted balance here in a minute. But we want to take a look at the details here and see if there's any bank errors. Now, I know there's a bank error in there, so we just got to find it. Well, here on okay, so check number 244 to pay the June gas bill was correctly written for 270, but recorded on Reed's books. Okay, well, that's a book error. So we know we have a book error. Oh, look here, $60 safe deposit box, which would normally go on the book side as an adjustment to the book balance. But we're looking at this and we go, I don't even have a bank deposit box. So we're going to write that one off, and we're going to have to figure that out. So they took out a safe deposit box fee, which makes this balance lower than it should be. So we got to add that bank error back in of $60. Now we can total all that up, and we get an adjusted balance of 25,320. So 25,320. So that's what we're going to reconcile to over here on the book side. Now, if you're in a test and they asked you for just this, that's all you'd work on. You would ignore everything else for the book. So now we're going to put the book balance in, and the balance is $25,110. Notice it's different than the beginning or the ending balance on the bank statement. So I do say ending beginning balance over here, but over here, but I mean that that's actually the ending balance on the bank statement. So this is the current balance in your books. Now we're going to add some things in. Let's see what that's going to be. So we looked at this error. Everything else is going to be a book adjustment. So check number 244 to pay the June gas bill was correctly written for 270, but we recorded it in the books for 720. So what does that do? So we take a look at that. We're going to take the 720 and subtract out the 270, and we're going to get a $450 difference. 750 from 270 is 450. Notice that when we take the 4 plus the 5 plus the 0 equals 9, or if it does add up to some divisibility of 9, we know we have a transposition or a slide somewhere. So we've transposed some numbers. Here's what's happened. And so we're going to have to take and realize, what did that do? Well, we wrote it for 270, but we recorded it at 720. So that means this balance is lower than it should be. So we got to add the $450 here. And this is a book error. All right. So let's mark that off, because once it's used and once we've done it, it's done. So now we have a couple things. Let's just move right down this list. We got a debit memorandum for $200, meaning that we have an NSF. So we're going to subtract out the NSF of 175, subtract out the NSF fee of $25. Now this is going to go to miscellaneous expense, and this one's going to go to AR. This is a utility bill. And then what's left? Let's see. We got the debit member, the NSF, and then a $40 debit memorandum for bank service charges. Well, that's an easy one. Always easy. Bank charges is $40, and that's going to go to miscellaneous as well. Although in my practice, I like to use bank service charges. I like to track my bank service charges. So if we take the 110, add the 450, and subtract out these subtractions here, we get an adjusted balance of 25,320. And that is a successful bank reconciliation. Okay, so now what we got to do is we're going to see what I can do here. We want to do some journal entries. So the first journal entry, all the ones up here are going to be debits to cash, and that's going to be for 450, and a credit to utility expense. Now remember, we sent $700 down there. We need to back out the 450 so that our expense is correct. Next, we got NSF, so we got an accounts receivable for 175, and of course, remember, we're taking that out of cash because it bounced right out of cash. And next, or we could do a compound entry here as well. Let's see if I can. I don't want to do that. Now, I think what I'm going to do here is, I don't seem to know how to erase. Why is that? No, we'll have to figure this out later. So what we could do is AR for 175. Oh, there's how you erase. Don't know how I did that. Okay, go back to here. All right, so we got AR for 175. Miscellaneous expense for 25, and then we can just hit the cash account for the full 200. Good. Lastly is the service charge. So that's just a debit to miscellaneous expense for $40, and remove that from the cash account, $40. Once these journal entries are posted and moved to the ledger, then your balances are correct. And that's a bank reconciliation. So if you have any questions, please enter them into the discussion board. And that will complete this lecture. So there are different reconciliations that you might have to do that give you a bank statement and a ledger. So in that case, what you're going to do is compare what the bank statement says to what the book ledger says. That's how you find your deposits in transit, your outstanding checks, and any errors that you might make. So sometimes it can be a tedious and kind of long process, but it's one of the more satisfying challenges that I've experienced in banking. So my policy in practice is to do banking every day. That means connecting to the bank, downloading transactions, and classifying them, and then moving on to the work of the day, AR collections, billing, things like that. Now, when the bank statement arrives, I don't give too much time in between the date that it arrives and the actual reconciliation. The longer you wait, the more in transit items or outstanding items you may have. So I recommend doing the bank reconciliation on the day that it is made available by the bank.